A Reddit user posted this picture after finding a hidden house sealed inside of his attic. They first posted about it back in 2020, but for some reason, I'm just now hearing about this. In their initial post, they explained that the building used to be a two-story shop where the shop owners used to live upstairs and the shop was downstairs. Well, the building was then converted into a church where they then sealed the old upstairs portion of the building off and just built a new addition around it. So then the Reddit user living there is left with this, an abandoned second-story space that has been completely sealed off from the rest of the house for God knows how long, and also completely stuck in time. Now, a lot of people in the comments were speculating that when this was turned into a church, this was most likely the pastor's apartment, which some say makes it even creepier. While exploring, they found a second hatch in the ceiling, suggesting that there's another attic attached to the second-story room. But the user couldn't get into it without using the ladder to get back down, and when they said they would go inside and post updates, they never posted on the Reddit thread again.
This is the scariest story that I've heard in a minute. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about Twitter stuff, and I actually have an email where anyone who this page can send me their ghost stories. And let me tell you, I am a scaredy cat, but it's to the point where I read so many emails a day that I just don't get scared at things anymore. But as I was scrolling tonight, this email freaked me out, and I'm probably gonna have to sleep with my lights on. So let's get into it. It comes from somebody who did not let me know whether or not they wanted to remain anonymous, so for obvious reasons, I'm gonna keep them anonymous. The way this person opens up the email is essentially, for as long as she can remember, she has believed in the paranormal. The person who sent me this email grew up very religious. They had a religious household where they believed in God and they prayed. Several years ago, the person who sent me this email's mom attended a flea market in Germany where she purchased a wooden cross. The person who sent me this email goes on to explain that in Polish tradition, it is used as a form of protection to put crosses above every single door. That's exactly what happened. Mom brought it home and put it above the door in the apartment, and everything seemed normal at first. Years after this whole experience that I'm about to talk about, the mom actually admitted to believing that there was something wrong with the cross, but just tried brushing it off, thinking that it was just her mind. And the person who sent me this email can't remember if she was born or not during this time when the cross was initially brought home, which means this was in their house for a long, long time. Now, the person who sent me this email, around 7 or 8 years old, had a fear of the dark, which resulted in her parents leaving the hallway light on. This is when things started to manifest into physical apparitions. The person who sent me this email says that she would wake up and see a woman's silhouette in the doorway. And I find this particularly terrifying because she was standing in the middle of the doorway, which means that the hallway light was illuminating her body. She could see the shape of her body, and she said she wasn't a particularly tall woman. She was actually very short and small, but she could never see her face. Her hair was tangled, but she would just be standing there watching the person who sent me this email. This would happen, from my understanding, pretty regularly, where she would wake up or just be like turning over and the woman would just be there. What's even more terrifying is that as time moved on, the person who sent me this email began to see something else in her room. She said that the woman only appeared a couple of times, but this particular apparition would appear regularly. In between the door to her bedroom was a wardrobe. The way that the room is laid out in my mind and from the description in the email is like, you walk into the room and there is just a wardrobe directly to the right or left of the doorway. So it's almost immediately there when you walk in. However, there is a space between the door frame and the wardrobe where she kept like this drying rack for clothes, where this silhouette would be all the time. This man in particular was so tall that he would have to like lean down to kind of fit into this weird, awkward space. And much like the woman, he would just sit there and stare at her and watch. She could not see any of their features. She could not see anything except the silhouettes. Now, these silhouettes never did anything to scare this person. They would just kind of observe her, would allow her to see them. But years go by, she starts seeing the man and the woman less and less and less. It eventually got to the point where she wasn't even convinced that it was a real thing, and maybe it was just a figment of her imagination. Until things began to escalate further past the man and the woman, period. At the time, she was sleeping on the couch pretty regularly, where she would fall asleep and wake up and then just take herself to her room. On this particular night, she wakes up at around 3-4 o'clock in the morning and immediately feels like there is something wrong. She wakes up in complete darkness. The TV had already shut off. and she glances over at the hallway where there is a wall that kind of escapes into the hallway with all the bedrooms. And from around the corner, she sees a long, slender hand wrap its fingers around the wall. I have chills just thinking about this. Nothing ever peeks around the corner. Nothing ever really happens, but this hand is just so bony, and it is completely dark in this room. So the fact that she was even able to make out that it was bony is like a little scary. Eventually, the person who sent me this email just convinced themselves that it was just because they had woken up, their eyes were playing tricks on them, and it was very difficult to see in the dark. It gets worse. It gets worse. The person who sent me this email weeks after this incident woke up in the middle of the night needing to use the restroom, gets out, walks past the hallway, and as she's passing by her brother's room, she looks inside. The girl who sent me this email says that she suddenly sees a woman curled up in the corner of the room, kind of huddled under some blankets. I have chills thinking about this and how horrifying it would be to see this in the middle of the night, but she immediately recognizes this woman's hair and realizes that it is the woman that she had been seeing in her room for years. Only this time, she is able to see the smile that is on this thing's mouth. It is like horrifically twisted. Her smile is huge. You can see this thing grinning ear to ear. Years after this encounter, she is visiting with some family, and the story of this thing comes up, and they're just talking back and forth about like this cross that their mom had picked up from a German flea market. During this conversation, her aunt is like chiming in about how she had received a key for the apartment that they were staying at the time, was sleeping on the couch, and woke up to the feeling of someone choking her. Immediately upon opening her eyes, she saw this woman in a white nightgown with tangled, messy hair smiling at her. The person who sent me this email did not include any of those details to her aunt, and I guess her aunt started praying and reciting prayer that her grandmother taught her, and eventually this thing just ran away smiling. I honestly think that's the worst part, is thinking that something isn't real and then something happens where it gets brought up in a conversation and somebody's like, oh no, I saw that too. Anyways, that's gonna do it for me.
Grandma says that we're not allowed to go in the basement. Welcome back to Creepy Crochet and Creepy Pasta. Let's get into today's scary story. I wait until I can hear Grandma snoring, then I make my way to the basement. Whatever's down there has to be pretty neat, right? Gotta be pretty neat. Why else would she say not to go down there? The door to the basement is locked with a padlock, but Grandma keeps the key to it on a hook right next to the door. Like, come on. You're not gonna keep me out of the basement that way. Maybe she's just getting old and doesn't want to forget where the key is. I open the padlock and swing open the door. A puff of air hits me that smells old. Everything in this house smells old. Maybe that just happens when you're old. I take one step into the basement and the stair creaks like I stepped on a cat's tail. I freeze, grimace, and mouth the word, yikes. I stand still for a second, but I can still hear Grandma snoring upstairs. Are old people supposed to snore that loud? I hold my breath as I walk down the rest of the steps like a ninja. I'm quiet as a mouse, silent as the grave, until I step on a splinter and let out a tiny yelp. Hello? Is somebody there? I hear a voice. Only the problem is that it didn't come from upstairs. The voice is coming from the basement. Despite my better judgment, I respond with a hushed, hello? Oh, thank God. Please, you have to help me. Where are you? I ask in my loudest whisper. In the corner. Please hurry before she wakes up. In the corner of the basement, a blanket was draped over something, so I gave it a quick tug. Underneath was a cage, and inside was Grandpa, I say, much louder than I should have. Why are you in there? Grandma put me here. This isn't like an old person's sex thing, is it? I regretted asking the second the words came out. No, God, please. You have to get me out of here before she... The lights to the basement turn on, and suddenly Grandma's standing at the bottom of the stairs. I distinctly remember telling you that you're not allowed down here. Grandma's voice has a venom to it that makes my skin crawl. Grandma, I ask, trying not to let her see me shake. Why is Grandpa in a cage? Grandma walks over, grabs my shoulder, and gently backs me away from the cage. I was hoping we could have this discussion when you were older, but there's no point in putting it off now. Grandma takes a deep breath. That's not your grandfather. I look at the man in the cage and then look back at Grandma. Yes, it is, I say. My child, it only looks like your grandpa. But it most certainly is not. Don't listen to her, Grandpa calls from the cage. She's gone crazy. Shut your mouth, or I will shut it for you. I've never seen Grandma be mean before. But if that's not Grandpa, who is it? I ask. That's a very good question, my child. Grandma got down on one knee so she could speak to me directly. There are so many names for that thing. Doppelganger, shapeshifter. My mother always called them copycats. They take the shape of someone you love, wait until you're totally at peace, and then kill you too so they can add your shape to their collection. I look at the man in the cage and then look back at Grandma, very confused. He looks like Grandpa to me. You sure it's not Grandpa? I'm very sure. But how can you know? Because I buried your grandfather under the willow in the back of our yard. She's lying, Grandpa yells. Remember when I got you a red tricycle for your 4th birthday? It's me. She's gone senile. I point at Grandpa and look at Grandma expectantly. She only sighs. When a copycat becomes you, they get all your memories as well. Even now he's trying to trick you, to manipulate you, so you'll let him out and he can kill us both. But why? I ask and then add. I mean, why copy Grandpa? Because Grandma has a lot of money saved up. Most old people do, and so that's who copycats like to become the most. They can live in luxury until all the money is spent. Plus, nobody bats an eye when an old person dies. That's what old people do. Then they can fake their death and just move on to their next victim. But we're not going to let that happen. Or not? I ask. No, because you're going to kill it. Grandma walks to a closet at the end of the basement and pulls out a mop with a butcher knife furiously duct taped to the end. Grandma, I mutter. This is your punishment for coming down into the basement. Don't think I've forgotten that you deliberately disobeyed me. Take it. Grandma thrusts the makeshift spear into my hands. I stop myself from whimpering and hold the spear tight. How do I do it so there's no pain? I ask. Oh, child, just jab him until he stops moving. It'll be over soon. You mean like this? I stab the spear right into Grandma's throat. There's horror in her eyes as she collapses to the floor. She tries to speak, to say something, but only gasping bubbles of blood come out. The light has barely left her eyes before Grandpa cheers. I knew you'd save me. Now let me out of here. No, I don't think I will. I walk over to Grandma and place a hand on her forehead. I copy her, slowly shifting my skin and growing, until I look just like her. You had your chance, and you mucked it up. I laugh. Now I get to be her.
What would you do if the babysitter you left in charge did satanic rituals when you weren't home? This story is coming from the actual child, now an adult, that the babysitter had been taking care of for this family. In his family, it is only him, his mom and dad. He has no other siblings. So this all takes place when he's around 10 years old and his mom and dad were not getting along very well. So on this particular night, the dad wanted to take the mom out, but they didn't have anyone to leave him with. So obviously they thought to call this babysitter. Now she wasn't new. She wasn't somebody they just found. She had been working with them for a while. Since it was spur of the moment, the dad had to contact the babysitter, asked her if she was available that night, and immediately she answers and tells them yes. The babysitter ends up showing up 2 hours later. They start telling her everything that she needs to do with the son. When the son, the one telling us the story, comes out of his bedroom and sees the babysitter, he starts freaking out. He starts telling his parents he doesn't want to stay alone with this lady, and the parents were like, well, why? What's wrong? She's so sweet. They even explain, like, her voice is so sweet. I've never even heard her scream at you. Like, why don't you want to stay with the babysitter? We've known her like your entire life. So he tells them, whenever you guys leave me alone with her, her voice changes and she does really weird things. Now the parents did not believe him, of course. And they basically tell him, hey, you need to relax. She's gonna take care of you. And if anything happens, you have our phone number. You can call us whenever you want. He remembers still begging them not to leave. And basically they did not give a fuck. And they went about their date and left him with the babysitter. He says that it's like him and the babysitter by the door. She's saying bye to them very sweetly. The door closes and she turns to look at him and says, go to your room. He explains this like drastic change. Like her voice goes from like very sweet to her parents, and as soon as they're gone, it gets very deep, it gets very raspy. And even though it does scare him, he's still a kid. So when she tells him like, go to your room, he's like, no, my parents said I could stay up and I can play with my games. And she was like, no, go to your room. So being that the kid was scared, because this is the second time that like raspy voice comes out and tells him, hey, go to your room, he decides that yeah, he's gonna go to his room. And his room is actually on the 1st floor and his parents' bedroom is on the 2nd floor. So he does end up going to his room. He gets in his bed and he actually falls asleep. However, he is awoken by what he describes as weird animal noises, and he says it almost sounds like a pig. Pig sounds that he had already told his mom that he would hear her make. He told his parents explains that sometimes he would hear this lady make weird sounds. It sounded like animals. It always sounded like a pig. The fact that he had already told his parents this, like, what the fuck? Like, how hard is it to find another babysitter? Is it really that hard? He explains that he had never seen these sounds coming from the babysitter. However, he would only hear these sounds when the babysitter was taking care of him, when it was only them two alone in the house. Now, when he heard these sounds before, he never got out of bed. He would try to force himself to go to sleep. But this is the night. This is the night that marked him. This is the night that he will never forget. And it was because he actually had the courage. He had to like talk himself up, and he wanted to go and see where those sounds were coming from, what was happening, what the fuck was the babysitter doing. He explains that this night was a very dark night. It was raining, there were thundering. Wrong night to come out and investigate, if you ask me. But he thought because of all these noises, because of the rain, because of the thunder, if he came out, maybe the babysitter wouldn't even notice that he was there, and he wanted to see what was happening. So he secretly, very quietly exits the room, realizes that these sounds are coming from the kitchen. So he starts walking towards the kitchen, and the scene that he walks into is something that he will never forget. He sees the babysitter standing in the middle of the kitchen. Her eyes are completely white, and there is blood just coming out of her mouth and dripping down to her body. He explained how he stood there just petrified, and it wasn't even the visuals. She was also saying things, but it was in a different language that he had never heard before. This is where he thinks like his adrenaline kicked in, because he started running back to his bedroom, and something in him told him to look back. And when he looks back and he's again looking at the scene, you know, the lady saying some weird shit, blood, eyes white, he says that the lady just drops almost like if she fainted. Because of this, now he doesn't run back to his room. He sees that she is passed out, so he ends up running up to his parents' room where that landline was, and he gets the phone. There's a little paper with his parents' phone number. He calls them, and he is insisting on them coming back, saying like everything that he saw. Obviously the parents are like, we don't believe you, like that's not real. And he's like, no, you need to come right now. I guess the tone in which he was telling them made them then think that something serious had happened, and they told them that they would be there as soon as they could. They do actually make it home, and when they walk into the scene that the son had described to them. This lady is passed out, full of blood, in the kitchen. They end up calling the ambulance. When the ambulance get there, they take her vitals. They're very weak. They ask the parents what happened. They told the ambulance people everything that the son had told them. They kind of did take it seriously, but they kind of said, well, maybe this was just some sort of like brujeria, witchcraft situation, but they still took the lady and took her to the emergency room. 2 hours after the babysitter had been taken to the hospital, they actually find out that she ends up passing away. Honestly, the parents stay in shock, and they tell themselves like, there's no way we can believe what our son told us. Like, there's no way this lady was making pig noises, her eyes were in white. They cannot believe it because it is too much for them to handle at the moment. They're trying to even process the babysitter passing away after what happened in their home. Now, months have passed, and again, they never believed the son. They never believed whatever story he told them that happened that night. The weird thing was that the son kept having dreams about this babysitter. He kept waking up because he could swear that he was hearing pig sounds. The parents kept telling him and insisting that it was just dreams, they were just nightmares, it wasn't real. And that was until there was one night where it was raining, it was thundering, and now the parents were awoken because they too heard sounds of like an animal, a pig, inside of their home. I did forget a detail too, because the kid had said that when he first walked into the scene where this lady was standing, there was a lot of candles and a whole bunch of pictures of his family surrounding her. Parents never believed them because when they walked in, there was no candles, there was no picture. Thing is, his story never changed, but they never saw candles or pictures, so that could also be the reason why they never believed him, but his story never changed of what he saw that night. So the night where the parents finally believe him is because they heard these pig sounds, very scared. They come down the stairs, and what they walk into the kitchen is the same scene that he had described to them over and over again, with the babysitter standing there, her eyes white. They couldn't believe it. They were also hearing this lady say some things that they couldn't understand. It wasn't Spanish, it was a different language. Obviously now they believe the kid. They grab him, they leave the house. They actually sold the house. Luckily they were able to sell the house quickly. It was in a good area. They were like in a rich neighborhood, so it was a prime area, then they were able to sell it very fast. So Years pass, and the family goes back to where they used to live for a visit, and they get very curious about the home. They decided that they wanted to do some, investigating, and they end up going to the house and knocking on the front door. So the new owner comes out of the house, they start talking, and then the parents are like, hey, have you ever experienced, and the new owner shut them up. He's like, don't even continue. He tells them, I know everything you're gonna tell me, I know what you're talking about, please leave my home because she is watching us right now. So the guy telling us the story, he's a little older when all this happened. He says that him, his mom and dad, they all stayed in shock, but they left immediately and they never went back or tried to investigate what was now happening in that home. I wouldn't even have.
This is why I don't be wanting to stop to help nobody. Welcome back, Creepy Crew. Your girl finally has her voice back for the most part. And I just want to say thank y'all for all the well wishes. And I appreciate y'all for being so patient with me. I ain't singing in no operas no time soon, but I can tell a story. So there's this girl, let's call her Caitlin. When she was 18, she was working the closing shift of a store in the mall in her city. She said she was walking to her car in the dark when a black SUV pulled up next to her. We were already immediately running. She says a woman opens the door and says, hey, excuse me, I need your help. She said it was a Hispanic woman in her 30s or 40s and she had a very heavy accent. So she stops and asks her what she needs. I don't give a damn what you need. You won't be getting it from me. That's what I do know. So the woman starts telling a story about how her sister got into a car accident and she needs to get gas before she can go help her sister. She was saying she couldn't find a gas station and she didn't have money either way. She also said she had went around to a couple churches to ask for help, but nobody would help her. Caitlin says she can't really understand her and she's not really telling the story super clearly, but for what she can understand, she needs to help this woman find a gas station and then help her pay for it. Not only do I have to find a goddamn gas station, I gotta pay for it? Excuse me? Absolutely not. Have you seen gas prices? I'm not paying for a damn thing. I'll take you there and you panhandle in the parking lot. But Caitlin said the woman is boohoo crying and she seems so desperate, so she was moved to help her. Not me. I'm finna move my car out of this parking lot. You have a good night. So Caitlin tells her to follow her to the gas station because it was just across the highway and that she would get gas for her. So they get to the store and Caitlin parks in front of the store, but she's surprised when the woman doesn't park at a pump. So Caitlin gets out of the car and she's like, hey, don't you want me to buy and pump gas for you? Wait a minute, you gotta pump the gas too? You got too goddamn far. So the woman then starts telling Caitlin, no, she misunderstood her story. She says she doesn't need gas, she needs money to go get her sister in the car accident. Now, why would your sister need money after a car accident? Maybe she don't got no insurance, she's trying to pay somebody off. I've had that happen. Maybe that's what it is. Caitlin says she also started adding a bunch of other facts that she didn't remember. And between the accent and the change in story, it was just difficult to understand everything that was going on. And y'all won't believe what Caitlin says next. She says, well, I don't have cash on me. I only have my card. But I suppose if there's an ATM inside the gas station, I could. And she can't even finish before the woman's like, yep, that's perfect. Actually, there is one inside. I know for a fact. You said you didn't know where no gas stations were. So how do you know there's an ATM inside this specific gas station? Suspicious. So Caitlin agrees to go in and get her some money from the ATM. As she turns around to go inside, the woman is like, wait, if you give me money, I'll have to repay you somehow. What do you mean by that? What exactly do you mean by that? So Caitlin is like, no, it's cool, don't worry about it, you don't have to. And the woman is like, no, give me your phone number so I can call you and meet up with you later to give you the money back. Or just give me your address and I can just send you the money. Excuse me, I'm about to give you the number to the FBI. Call them. Send them the money. So Caitlin is like, nah, twin, I'm good. And the woman is persistent. She's basically begging her at this point. Give me your phone number. Give me your address. I want to pay you back for this money. So Caitlin says this goes on for 5 minutes. And as she refused the last time, the woman looks at her and in a very chilling voice, she goes, don't be so nice. Don't have to tell me twice. Have a good night. But I got in my car, skedaddle. So despite all the red flags that are waving in the sky right now, Caitlin is still convinced that this woman needs help. Caitlin, you might need help. And it sucks because you're just trying to be a good person. She's just trying to be a good person. But sometimes you just can't be polite with everybody. So Caitlin goes into the gas station to get money out of the ATM. However, for some odd reason, she could not remember her PIN number and was unable to withdraw money. Look at that. Lord had to take your memory away for you to not give this lady no money. So she goes back outside to tell the woman, and the woman like roll her eyes, huffs something under her breath, and then gets in her car and speeds off. I thought you didn't have any gas. You should be speeding off nowhere. Matter of fact. So as Caitlin is driving home, she becomes suspicious of the scenario. I fear the batteries in the alarm bells need changing. She said after a while, she figured out it was a woman definitely trying to scam her for money. I'm glad that it eventually clicked. I wish it would have clicked when she pulled up next to you in a black SUV in the parking lot, but better late than never, I suppose. She said it really disturbed her that she was trying to get her contact information. She said she doesn't know what that lady wanted to do, but it definitely freaked her out. I know sometimes people have big hearts and want to help out, but you can't ignore those red flags. If something seems a little off, a little weird, get out of there. I'm glad she didn't give up the contact information. Y'all stay safe out there.
Story time on how I went to an abandoned building and got chased out. Okay, so this abandoned building was literally on an intersection in the middle of fucking nowhere. It was like a big ass mansion. It was huge. The whole place was falling apart, but many people, like local ghost hunters, have posted videos of them like searching this place on YouTube. Me and my boyfriend saw it. We knew where it was, so we decided to go. This part of the story is very important. My phone battery when I walked in was on 30%, okay? Please remember that. I was recording off my iPhone. I wasn't using Snapchat. I wasn't using anything other than my normal phone camera, and I was recording. There was two buildings because it was like a restaurant kind of thing. There was a big mansion and then there was a little like restaurant. They were detached from each other, but on the same property. We went into the little building first, the restaurant. Everything about it was normal. It was an abandoned building. The only thing about it was that it was falling apart, which is bound to happen. So we decided to go into the house. The house was practically pitch black. It was terrifying in there. It wasn't just falling apart. There was certain things about it, like the piano was flipped onto its side. It was literally thrown about. It looked like someone had gone through that place and demolished it. As we got into the bigger building, my stomach was saying, girl, no. Girl, no, you need to leave this place immediately. Everything about my body was completely disagreeing with being here. It was such an unsettling feeling, and I just thought, okay, it's just because you're in an abandoned building, girl. Boy, was I wrong. I was still recording. This was one big video. I look at my phone and it says 12%. I was like, what the fuck? We decided to go back into the little building, and I'm still recording at this point, okay? Until me and my boyfriend are at this part that we'd already searched. We'd already been there. There was nothing there, and we heard someone get up. The noise of them shifting, their feet hitting the floor, and then chasing after us. So we start legging it. We are leaving. We are gone. Okay, goodbye. We ran out of there like a drug dealer being chased by the police, okay? I go to check my phone. Tell me why my phone is dead. Completely dead. In the space of 2 minutes from me walking out of the big place into the little place where that just happened, my whole phone battery had been drained. We got back in the car, we went home, whatever. Now, while I was recording, I was spamming the picture button that you can take whilst recording on the iPhone. Tell me why I go through my camera roll to see a woman. A woman. And I do not mean a normal woman. This has to be a ghost. Don't even. I know you're thinking, girl, what the fuck? But I took a picture of this blurred woman who was wearing like a 90s, like, I can't explain it. It was like a maid outfit. She was in a maid outfit. She had her hair in a bun. It was black and she was facing the other way and she was just walking. Terrified me. So obviously seeing that, I decided to rewatch the video of the point where we ran away. Tell me why in that video you can hear the people get up. You can hear this person get up, but there is no one fucking there. I showed a few people this video to make sure I wasn't tripping, because what? I know I wasn't the only one there, but still, you want confirmation. I went back through my camera roll about a week later to show someone else. The videos were gone. Gone. As someone who loves creepy shit, why would I delete the one thing that I class as evidence to the unknown? And it's just gone out of my camera roll. My battery was drained. Within a second, my phone was dead. The videos were gone. The picture, gone. Everything was it just disappeared. Anyways, let me...
Spooky story time. This is a glitch in the Matrix story. A follower named Shaya sent me the story, and she said that this happened in 2022 when she was 16 years old. So she says that she has a twin sister, and Shaya was getting ready for school, and she goes and checks on her sister because they were going to catch the bus, and her sister wasn't ready just yet, and she actually said that she wasn't going to school because she wasn't feeling good. Now, Shaya says that she has epilepsy, so her mom rarely lets her go to school by herself, but she asked anyway. Her mom was like, okay, have your cell phone on you, please be careful, call me if anything, just be careful. So Shaya didn't specify where she lives, but she lives in an apartment and she's lived there her entire life, the exact same apartment, building, everything. So she is very acquainted to everyone that lives there, and so is her mom. and her mom's best friend actually lives in the first floor, whereas Shia and her family live in the fifth floor. So Shia is walking out of her apartment and she gets on the elevator, goes to the first floor, and she always sees her mom's best friend, let's call her Brenda, and she always sees Brenda every morning. Brenda always tells her good morning, how are you, have a good day, and they go to school. Shia goes to the first floor now, is walking towards the door to exit the apartment building, and she sees Brenda, her mom's best friend. And she's standing there, looks like she's in movement, but she's not moving. Shia kind of looks at her and she's like, okay, good morning, hi. And Brenda doesn't say anything. So Shia is like, okay, maybe she's having a bad day. Everything's fine. Let's go outside. She's outside waiting for the bus. She's looking down on her phone. She's distracted. She just happens to look up and looks at her surroundings. And she says that everything, all the cars, everyone walking on the street were just still, like they were stuck. Now Shia was freaking out. She's like, there's no way I'm hallucinating. Like, I'm awake. I talked to my sister. I talked to my mom. What is going on? So she's freaking out. She's like, okay, so the cars that are in the middle of the street aren't moving. They're like in movement, but still, if that makes sense. The people are mid-walk, just stuck. So she freaks out. I know I would. And she runs inside the building, wants to get on the elevator. It's not coming down to the first floor fast enough. So she starts running up the stairs. And she says that they have climbed and they have ran up those stairs many, many times. She's 16 years old, has lived there her whole life. And she's going and going and going. And she says that it's like endless stairs. She said that she felt like she could never reach the fifth floor. So she sits down, has her head in between her legs, like completely freaking out. She looks up, tries to give it another try, and she ends up on the fifth floor. She runs up to her mom, freaking out, in tears. She's crying, and her mom is freaking out, like, oh my gosh, what happened? Are you okay? Did you have a seizure? Like, what is going on here? And Shia explains what she saw, and her mom believes her. So her mom is honestly just trying to calm her down. She doesn't want her to, of course, get a seizure, get sick. So she's just trying to calm her down. An hour later, Shia is like, okay, I'm okay. Let me go outside by myself. Let me see what is going on. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's the same. I don't know. So she goes back down to the elevator, is walking towards the front of the apartment building, and she sees Brenda, her mom's best friend, kind of in the same position that she was prior. This time, Brenda tells Shia, hey, good morning. How are you? Have a good day. And Shia's like, yeah, good morning. She walks outside of the building, and now the cars are in motion. The people are walking, but it was the same cars and the same people that she had seen before. She says that she's never told anyone the story because she knows how crazy it sounds. She doesn't want people to look at her crazy. She doesn't want anyone to think that she is insane, but she is 100% sure that she knows what she saw. She knows what she went through. She just can't explain it. She wants to know if any of you guys have ever gone through anything like this. If you guys think it's a glitch in the Matrix or if she's just losing her marbles. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you to Shia for sending me this spooky story. As always, if you guys have a story that you like for me to read, please make sure that you send it via DM or email because I'd love to read it. And I will see you guys in the next spooky story. Bye.